Despite your best intentions, you may be wasting money in ways you don't realize. Keep listening to find out what those ways are and how to fix the issue. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittany Halford.
And I'm Dr. Alicia Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Hey, Alicia, one of the most important financial tasks we do as doctors is protect ourselves, which means getting the right insurance. I recall purchasing my insurance policy just a few days before I graduated from residency. What was your experience?
So I got my insurance when I graduated from medical school right before I started residency. I actually called a few agents, but I had the best service from Pradeep Auto at PKA Insurance Group. He was super responsive and personable. Unlike some of the other agents, Pradeep actually got me quotes from all the major companies and actually took the time to explain the nuances in each of their policies. What I loved most is that he wasn't just this way for me. Whenever I would send one of my friends to him, he would not only speak to them, but he'd also let them know where to go or who to contact if there were better options or discounts available.
At PKA Insurance Group, Pradeep Auto and Matthew Peterson are independent brokers focusing on disability and life insurance. They excel in securing coverage for physicians and other medical professionals. Discounts on disability insurance can range from 10 to 40% depending on your situation. And there is now an A+ rated carrier offering up to $10 million of life insurance without lapse. If you are very healthy with limited to no medical issues, approval is likely in 5 minutes. Reach out to PKA Insurance to discuss your disability or life insurance needs at www.pkainsurance.com or call 1-800-258-1018.
Okay, Alicia, I feel like I always start the episode with I feel like I'm full of feelings, but I am going on a cruise very, very soon. And I'm like at that point where I'm excited, but also overwhelmed. And I think part of the overwhelm is that I've never been on a cruise before. So we are on the Carnival Mardi Gras cruise ship, and we are going to Turks and Caicos, to the Dominican Republic, and the Bahamas. One of the things that gives me a lot of concern and pause whenever I go on a trip is planning the excursions for our family, especially with small children. So the fact that everything is planned sounds fantastic. We just got to show up. So that's great. And that provides a lot of peace of mind. Now, I wanted to ask you, because I watched a YouTube video, they had talked about reviewing your invoice or your receipts daily because sometimes they're like missed charges. And then once you get off of the ship, it's hard to reconcile that. Do you have any tips for how you went about looking at your bill or your receipts or the invoice that they have on the cruise ship?
I think different cruise ships may do it differently. But from my experience, there is a way for you to check what your charges are. Usually there's some sort of app associated with the cruise ship, and you can see that there. In fact, I remember the last time I went on a cruise, it was with my family to Alaska. And each day, the customer service line where people trying to rectify their bills was super long, probably
Oh
because
my.
people were like, why am I getting charged this? Or trying to buy excursions at the last minute, that sort of thing. So I want to give you that reassurance that you can check your invoice while you're on the cruise, provided you have Wi-Fi and you have the ability to rectify any charges. In terms of best practices, I'm not sure if this is the best practice, but one of the things that I try to do when I'm going on cruise ships or just vacations in general is by clarifying before I go what is covered and what is not, so that
Mhm.
I have an idea of what I know I'm going to spend money on and I can plan for that in advance. On a cruise, a lot of these things are all inclusive, so they're already included in the price of a cruise. But some of the things that may not be included, again, this may differ depending on what sort of cruise line you're traveling with, is Wi-Fi. Is it important for you to have internet access? What kind of access do you want? Do you want unlimited? Do you only need a few hours per day? Often that's a premium charge. And it may not just be you, it may also be your kids, right? And so thinking about okay, if we are having an ocean day where we aren't docking for one particular day, it's just kind of sailing on the sea, are there activities on the cruise ship that my kids might enjoy? Are those activities free? Do I also want to plan for having my kids being able to stream movies and watch a couple movies in case my husband and I, in your case, would want to maybe chill out or whatever. What activities on the cruise ship are free and which ones have an extra charge? So usually when you log into the cruise portal, you can see, oh, okay, there's these excursions that I can choose to buy or choose not to buy. There are also different events and things and activities on the cruise ship. Some may be free, some may not be free. And then there are also other things that I can add on to my cruise package that might enhance my experience. And for that third category, it might be Wi Fi. It may also be access to premium restaurants and getting some sort of restaurant credit. It could also be a drink package. I'm not sure if you and your husband are big alcohol drinkers, but usually the cost of alcohol is not included in the cruise ship. And so you can purchase a drink package, like an all you can drink thing, or you can purchase all you can drink thing for 1 or 2 days off the ship. And so those are the things that I'm looking at. This is obviously a financial podcast. And so as I start thinking about those things, obviously it can add up. And so then I'm looking at what's my travel budget? How much am I willing to spend extra to enhance this travel experience? What is the cost of these things? Is it worth it for me? I think what catches a lot of people off guard is they assume everything is free. They may not assume that they have to pay for Wi Fi, or they get on the cruise ship and normally they don't drink, but they are bombarded with alcohol and now they want to drink and the drinks are kind of expensive, or their kids get bored and they want their kids to be able to watch movies and do activities on the boat, and those things add up. And so just looking at your budget for this trip and saying, how much money would I be okay spending to enhance this travel experience?
I think that's a phenomenal point, especially for me. I'm a minimalist. I'm like, I'm going to bring my own drinks. I'll drink water. No, you're not watching any screen time. Like whatever is on cable or boat TV, that's what you got as your options. However, this is not just my vacation. This is a vacation that we're going with the entire family. And so it charged me to think about what are the ways that we operate as a family in order to make sure that we have peace, and what things cause my kids to be upset. And so one of the things that we did do when discussing the room, I would have chose the minimal room, but my husband's like, no, we want a suite. So we opted for a suite. And with that suite, there's also room service, which is something that my husband really enjoys. But I think also there's just a little bit of hesitancy because I've never been on a ship and I don't know what things I will desire and won't desire, but we'll see. I'll give you an update on how everything goes and if there were some things that we spent money on that we didn't need.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. I wish you all the best. I want
Thank you.
photos and all of the things. So I hope that you enjoy your vacation. As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income, because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
Well, Leisha, as we talk about you giving me some guidance about this cruise ship, one of the things that I wanted to discuss during this financial focus is all the ways that people waste money. It's like little leaks that we don't really see, but have lasting impact when we don't take care of those leaks. And so for you, I just want to say, when you think about wasting money, I know you coach people on investing, about budgeting, about spending properly, asset allocation. Is this something that comes up? Do you call people out to say, spend them on this thing? I don't know. Maybe you could invest it instead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always tell people that oftentimes you can come out ahead by saving money that you are currently spending instead of always trying to earn more. And the reason for that is because of taxes. When you earn more money, for us who are physicians and high earners, right, we're paying over 30% in taxes on that money. So we don't oftentimes get to keep all of the extra money that we earn. But when you prevent yourself from spending money, that is a direct influence. If you're trying to make $100 versus not spend $100, you come out ahead by not spending that $100 because you're able to save that full 100. Maybe while we're also trying to increase your income, we can also eliminate some of these expenses that you have, or in this case, some of these fees that you're paying that might be able to save you some money on the back end. Now, I get it. We're high income earners. Saving $2 here and $1 there may not be worth our time, right? We want to make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze here. But at the same time, I also don't like wasting money. And so I find that this is something that I'm talking to people about. Hey, are there some ways that you are wasting money money and what can we do about that?
I love that. And when you said, is the juice worth the squeeze, especially as high income earners, I chuckled inside a little bit because I think that's where many people are. When they see $2 to $3, they're like, oh, whatever, I'll just pay it. But as I mentioned to someone that I was coaching at this African health conference about investing, and I just showed a lot of the students, like, if you invest $10 a month, this is what you'll get over 30 years. Although it's not millions of dollars, it is something that is compounding. And what I told her is that, yes, you start with $10. But it's not the fact that you're just investing $10. Like the $10 is not what's important. It's the behavior that you're developing. So I think even as high income earners, when we're like, oh, it's just $2, oh, it's just $4, oh, it's just $5, that habit is forming when we're not mindful of what's coming in and what's going out. And it can compound into significant savings or significant losses when it's accumulated. So,
Yeah.
the first thing that I want to discuss that I think happens to a lot of us are bank fees. And I don't know about you, but recently this is one that I have committed. So, a lot of this conversation is birthed on my own reflection of the ways that I've been wasting money lately. So, sorry, people, hopefully you will see me and you will feel like, oh, okay, I also feel seen. Brittany has done this. It's okay. But bank fees, I went with my husband to Chase Bank about 3 weeks ago, and it was not my account, it was his account. And honestly, I should have just called instead of going in person, but I was hopeful that they would reverse more fees by going in person. There was an account that was not grandfathered in. And so it was a new account that they had switched over once they acquired First Republic Bank, and it required a minimum balance. And my husband was not depositing money into that account. So every single month, there is a fee because we did not maintain the minimum balance for that account. And yes, it's just $12, but $12 over many months is a decent amount of money. Other fees that I see people often getting into, not just the account management fees, but things like the ATM fees. When you have a debit card for a specific bank, but that bank is inconvenient or is not accessible to you, and you use another ATM, it's like $3 or $4. But again, it's the habit of going to that ATM and being charged $3 or $4. And how many times are you doing that in a year? And what is the summation of that? One of the things that I've seen coaching clients is, I coach a lot of women who have credit card debt. And so they don't have the cash flow, they're overspending overdraft fees. And this one is large. This one's like $40 a month. Just imagine when you can't pay off your credit cards and now you are accumulating additional fees that are being added to that balance of $40 a month. So these are just some of the annoyances that I think we could definitely create better habits around and save us some money. Do you have any money mishaps with bank fees or experiences on how you think people can rectify and resolve accumulating bank fees?
One of the things that I did last year was change my main bank. And I don't know why I had so much inertia or anxiety around doing so, but I finally pulled the trigger last year. What do I mean by that? I think I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. That's when I opened up my first bank account. I remember my dad taking me to Bank of America down the street and we opened up some account and his name was on it and my name was on it. And that's sort of the account that I used for a long period of time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using a large commercial bank. I think that they have some perks. But one of the things that I noticed is that I started being charged a lot of ancillary fees. And it wasn't just minimum balance fees or ATM fees. It was also like whenever I would need to have a cashier's check for an apartment payment or something, there would be a fee for that. There were all of these random rules, and it just seemed like I was being nickel and dimed for little small things over time. And I did like what you said, right? I said, oh, it's just $5. Oh, it's just $20. But then I realized these things are adding up. And maybe if I switched to a different bank, I would not constantly have these fees. I just moved most of my money to a credit union. I'm a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, and I realized that being a member of that credit union sort of eliminated me from having to pay so many fees for a lot of the things that I needed. And so that's one of the changes that I made last year was just like, okay, maybe I should just switch banks or switch who my main bank is in order to eliminate those fees. It doesn't necessarily have to be all or nothing. I know some people like the convenience of having large commercial banks, but maybe it's also you creating an account with a credit union or a different bank that is less likely to charge you some of those fees. So that's something that I've done recently is just changing who my main bank is so that I can eliminate some of that.
I think that's a good suggestion and one that I have considered before, but haven't really acted on, like you said, due to inertia. And then, of course, there are some fees that in my mind I just accept. When I'm trying to wire out cash, I just accept that it's a $25 fee. And because it's so infrequent, it's like a periodic fee. It is almost like, okay, this is the charge for the service that I'm requesting at this time. So, under this category of hidden fees, I also have hidden investment fees. This came to mind because I had a conversation with a guy at this conference and he's like, this person, I'm not going to tell you from what investment company, reached out to me and she's asking me all these things. She's talking about what my goals are and she's asking me all these questions. But the one thing that I never heard from her was how she's getting paid. So I think sometimes when we're working with financial advisors who take a fee of assets under management, it is not clear what we're actually paying them. And if you think about the summation, like there's been some estimations of if you have a financial advisor who takes 1% of assets under management and say they're managing $100,000 over 20 years, you could be losing $220,000 over 20 years in your investment portfolio by utilizing that advisor. So, we haven't really touched on this topic before on this podcast about how to most effectively use a financial advisor and how to really investigate those investment fees. Alicia, I know you mentioned fees and making sure that things are cost efficient in one of our last episodes where we discussed investing. How do you go about investing and understanding the fees that you're paying to the person who's investing for you or choosing your investment?
Yeah, so I think it starts by realizing that nothing is free. Oftentimes, when people are interested in investing and building wealth, they say to themselves, I don't know all that I think I should know. And so I'm going to hire somebody whom I believe can help me. And I don't think that that thought is inherently wrong. I think the problem with that is a lot of people assume that because they are not writing a check or sending a payment from their bank account to that advisor, that the advisor is free. And that is just inaccurate. Nobody is going to work for free. Or let me just say it like this. Very few people are working for free. And what you'll oftentimes hear a financial advisor say is, my advice is free. But what they're not telling you is if you want them to act on the advice that they're talking about and you hire them to sort of manage your portfolio, they are charging you a fee. Usually that fee can come in a couple of different ways. Brittany, you mentioned an assets under management model. So that means that all of the money that they are managing, they're going to take a percentage of that. And oftentimes it's around 1%. You may say to yourself, well, 1% doesn't seem like that much. Well, when you think about the average yearly return on average for most things is only around like 6 to 8%. They're already taking 1% of that. So they're taking a significant chunk, which adds up to a six-figure amount over time. And so just thinking about, okay, this is not free. My advisor is probably charging me some sort of assets under management fee that they are taking directly from my investment portfolio. The second thing is the investments themselves. Like, yes, you pay money to purchase the investment, but you also pay money in the form of an expense ratio or sometimes a load in order to even have that investment in your portfolio. And that's what I talked about a few episodes ago, was looking at those expense ratios, right? How much of an expense ratio are you paying to even hold that investment? I mentioned that usually I'm investing in index funds and the expense ratios are less than 0.15. But I've seen some investments where the expense ratios are 0.5, 0.7. And again, you're thinking, Leisha, that seems like such a small difference. Well, you're paying that so often that that change, although it may seem small on the surface, actually adds up, like I said, to a substantial amount over time. And so when we talk about investment fees, I find that number one, people don't realize they're paying them. And number two, people don't realize how much it is because the percentage seems low on the surface.
Well, that takes us to this next one, which doesn't necessarily fall into the category of hidden fees, but I think that it's still a little bit unclear what people are getting as far as a benefit of doing so, and that is whole life insurance. Felicia, I know we had a whole episode with Pradeep Auto, the sponsor of this podcast, who we love and recommend about life insurance. And he reshopped my term life insurance and saved me a significant amount of money. When we are purchasing life insurance, sometimes we are approached by financial advisors or insurance brokers, and they're telling us that we need said amount for said period of time. We might say that this is a whole life insurance policy policy, and this is what you're going to get. A whole life insurance policy, it has a cash value benefit. It helps you to take care of your family upon your death, and this is what they're going to get. And my concern with that is that when we pay whole life insurance compared to term life insurance, it is often much more expensive to purchase a whole life insurance policy. And the cost can sometimes be 10 to 12 times more. And if you think about what the insurance company is giving you in return or what they're actually doing with your money, is that they're taking that money and they're putting it in investments, but only giving you a portion of the return of that investment. Of course, you have the guaranteed death benefit, but let's say that something happened where a payment was faulty or something like that, and they completely drop your policy, then sometimes you have little recourse. And what I find is that we are often being taken advantage of by some of these insurance brokers. And I can honestly say that one of my clients who is 30, she's single, she has no kids, and this insurance broker sold her a policy. She was paying $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month for a whole life insurance policy without having any dependents. I say that not just for whole life insurance, but I think with a lot of our insurance policies that it is wise for us to not just accept what is being given to us or saying that we need, but for us to take the time to do our own research and do the due diligence to better understand the product that they're selling and what that cost should be, and also to shop it so that we can save money and not pay those additional fees.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to whole life insurance, oftentimes it's a product where you're trying to mix insurance and investing. You're trying to make sure you have the insurance you need, right? Life insurance. And you're also trying to invest some money and try to make a return that you can use to borrow from yourself and those sorts of perks. But it's basically you mixing insurance and investing. And I don't like doing that because I don't think you do either one very well when you purchase a whole life insurance policy. The insurance is oftentimes not as much as you need, and the investing is not as high of returns as you would get otherwise. And so I'd like to keep those things separate. And so that's one of the things that I think a lot of people would just benefit from a term life insurance policy instead of whole life insurance policy. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but these whole life insurance policies also do have a ton of fees. If you decide you don't want that policy anymore, you're paying a substantial amount in what they call surrender fees. When you are investing the money, you're paying some fees there. And so just really keeping an eye out of, do I even need this product? And if I do need life insurance, what kind of life insurance do I need? And what, again, are all of the fees that I might pay? So I agree with you. Whole life insurance is one of those examples of hidden fees. I think a couple more examples of hidden fees, not necessarily hidden, but just like extra fees that we may not think about, are credit card fees. I'm someone who does a lot of credit card hacking. I tend to open credit cards every so often. And one of the things that I always have to keep in mind is how much money am I paying to have this card? And I need to make sure that I factor in this cost when I determine for myself whether or not I'm going to get the card and whether or not I'm going to keep the card after the first year. And so just being mindful of how much you're paying in credit card fees, because you may not get as much value out of the card as you're paying in annual fees. And so you just got to make sure that those numbers align. Brittany, another thing that I have learned about that has annoyed me is add-on fees. Add-on fees. And this really hits home when it comes to dental offices. I don't know if you have had this experience, but I will go to a dental office or go to some appointment. It's like I'm asking them, what's my copay? All right, let me pay it right now. I don't like having outstanding balances. And then inevitably I get emailed or snail mailed, oh, actually, you owe an extra $5 here, an extra $10 there. And it's so easy, as you mentioned before, Brittany, to just pay it and go, oh, I'm annoyed, but whatever, it's just $5. Or, oh, I'm annoyed, but it's just $10. But one of the things I've been challenged to do is really question, what am I paying for? Is there a reason for this added fee? When I went to the eye doctor, I said, hey, I want a checkup. I want to get some new contacts. And they said, well, the exam for contacts is not included in your yearly exam. You got to pay extra for that. And I'm like, huh? Sometimes it's just the way things work, but I think just being aware of what are the fees that I have to pay, which fees can I avoid, and which fees do I just need to kind of add in as the cost of doing things.
Yeah. And Leisha, as you talk about your dentist, it's bringing to mind when I was at the dentist, they put the like fluoride paste or whatever. And then after you walk out, they're like, okay, that would be $40. You're like, oh my you didn't tell me up front that this fluoride paste was $40. And I think sometimes we just accept the fees because we can see, okay, well, the dentist is recommending this or whatever. It's already on my teeth. They can't take it off, etc. So let's just make things easy. But another place that I've seen that recently, and I don't know if you've had this experience, is when I was eating out, Brooke and I, we went to a local restaurant and they charged a hospitality fee. It was like 2% of our bill and it was not taxes. It was not gratuities. It was just like something else. And I was like, what is this? And the waitress said, well, you can refuse this fee. And at that time, I'm like, oh, it's already here. Let me just give them my credit card and pay it. So sometimes it takes a little bit more energy in order to avoid these fees or to go back and redo the process that has already been established. But if we think about solving the problem today compared to the cumulative loss, then that is what we're addressing here. That we're addressing the habits and the behaviors so that they don't continue in other facets of our lives and have that compounding negative impact. Now I want to move on to unused goods and services. And I'm calling some people out, listeners. I'm sorry if this is you. Unused goods and services. Leisha, and the first one on my list is gym memberships. I read that there is a cumulative loss annually of about $397 million from unused memberships. And that is crazy to me. And I also read that almost a third of all Americans pay for a gym membership, even if they're not using it. So let me ask you, have you ever paid for a gym membership that you don't use? I know you know somebody who pays for a gym membership and is not using. And what do you think is the reason? Like, why do we continue to incur this monthly cost when it offers no value to us?
Okay, so I'm going to enlighten you on my life. So I actually have never paid for a gym membership, despite the fact that I'm a sports stock and I exercise very often. Let me explain why. I just happen to be lucky and blessed that one of my brothers used to be one of the district and regional managers of LA Fitness. And so I just never paid for my gym membership because I had family in the business, essentially. Number one. Number two, my brother is an excellent trainer, as you might imagine. And so he trains me a lot. Number three, I now live in an apartment with a gym. So I don't have to pay for a separate gym membership. So I've just kind of been lucky in that regard. But to answer your second question is, why do you think there is such a high percentage of people who have gym memberships and don't use them? I think because it plays on our psyche. Most people know that they should work out, they should exercise. And so they say to themselves, even though I am not exercising right now as often as I know that I should, I don't want to cancel this gym membership because I know that I should be using it, or I think I will use it in the near future. And that's actually how a lot of gyms make their money. Got a little inside info from the LA fitness world, right? They bank on people paying for monthly memberships and not utilizing them. Because if everybody who had the membership was in the gym every day, they would need to buy more equipment, they would need more space, they would cost them more money. And so that's one of the ways that these gyms actually make a substantial amount of money. And it's hard as a consumer to cancel because you're like, well, I don't want to not be fit. I don't want to prevent myself from going to the gym when I could. And so it's one of those things that kind of hurts your psyche to cancel. It's like, you're not using it, but you think you will. And so you just keep it. And so I think that's a little bit into the psychology of why there's so many people who still have these memberships that they're not utilizing.
I agree. And I think another reason why people don't cancel it is because when they realize they have to cancel it, it's difficult. Like you have to present in person sometimes to sign this document that you have to cancel this thing. So at least for me, I have had a gym membership. I pay for the YMCA. It's family oriented. I could drop my kids off in the daycare and go swimming or go to a Zumba class. I love Zumba. I'm the youngest person in the room, but I enjoy it. And so I had this routine where I would do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But now since Brooke is in school and she's doing all of these extracurricular activities, I found that I was utilizing the gym less. And so I actually canceled our membership and we bought a treadmill that is in our garage now that I can run whenever I want to and some weights and things of that nature. And I still, even though it is closer in proximity, it is more convenient. I could wake up with stinky breath and a hair that is looking a mess. I still do not use my gym equipment that is in our garage as frequently as I should. So making a priority is very important and something that we need to put on our schedules and to make it easy. But like you said, for many of us, we know that this is something that we should do. We purchase things out of aspiration. And unfortunately, lifestyle, desire, all of the excuses get in the way of us actually doing the thing.
Yeah, when we are along this line of unused goods and services, we talked about gym memberships. Another thing that gets me, Brittany, is streaming services.
Mhm.
Streaming services. I am a sports fanatic, as we talked about. And sometimes, which annoys me to death, is that all of the games, sometimes some of the games are on different streaming platforms. Like one game might be on Peacock, and another game might be on Amazon Prime, and then another game might be on like HBO Max or whatever. And so I basically have to buy all the subscription services in order to be able to watch the games that I want. And sometimes I'm just purchasing a service just to like watch one particular game and then I forget to cancel it. So this is part of my own fault, right? My love of sports is costing me money here. I will admit that sometimes I make deals with my friends and I'm like, okay, you buy Peacock and I'm going to buy Disney, you buy Netflix. But the streaming services are kind of cracking down on you like sharing subscriptions. This has been probably an area where I need to kind of cut back. One of the things that I've tried to do, as I mentioned, is share subscription services amongst friends who live in the same city, but also put reminders in my phone. You and I were talking about this offline earlier, like, oh yeah, we just bought this subscription. I put this reminder in my phone that I need to cancel it before the 7-day period or before the 30-day period or before the 6-month period. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is put these reminders in my phone, like cancel this service so that it doesn't renew before I've had the chance to cancel it.
Yeah. You know what has helped me because I'm guilty of this. There is still, and I mentioned this on this podcast probably months ago, a Dropbox subscription that I have not found and I don't know where it is that I need to cancel. But I have gotten into this habit as well. And what I have done to fix this is as soon as I watch the thing, use the service, I cancel it right then. If I've tried it, a 7-day trial and I've tried it and I don't really like it, I just cancel it right then. And so that has helped me to eliminate some of these subscriptions. But I think it also really calls us to schedule a quarterly session of reviewing our subscriptions and understanding which ones we're using and which ones we aren't, and eliminating anything that we're not using. So I kind of suggested this. I alluded to this with my Dropbox, which is digital storage. Another unused goods and services is storage units. So either physical storage units or digital storage units. And Leisha, as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, we need to clean out our Google Drive because we need to clean out our Zoom. And what I find is that we've become so busy. We have all of these apps, we have all of these digital things, like my phone has millions of videos. I'm always running out of storage. And so it's just so much easier for me to just upgrade my storage or purchase another storage unit or device or app or what have you, instead of taking the time to actually eliminate, minimize, to be reflective of what I'm using and what I'm not using. And the financial impact of this can lead to, like I said, if you're doing this over 20, 30 years and having that habit, $10 over 30 years at a 7% return is about $12,000. Now, $12,000 is not something that I want to just quickly give up to anyone, not right now and not later. So we have to think about the impact of this. I also am reflecting on this when I talk to one of my tenants who's actually moving out of our property, but she's like, oh, we need a house because we're paying for a storage unit. They just have so much stuff. They've been moving and downsizing and upsizing. And so now they're paying for a storage unit. And I think for many physicians, when we transition careers and when we move, we don't want to get rid of the physical things. So we prefer to pay for the storage space than to let it go, even though we haven't looked at it in 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got to figure out how to declutter, especially given the fact that a lot of this clutter, whether it is digital clutter or physical clutter, tends to cost us money over time. I agree with you. Brittany, this last category of money waste is overpaying for purchases or maybe buying things that are of low quality. Do you have some examples to kind of share with the people here?
Yeah. So the one thing that I'm thinking about is fast fashion, especially as I'm getting on this cruise ship and, they have like, oh, there's a white party or you want to go to dinner and wear these outfits. And it's like, okay, how many times can I wear the same thing? I don't want to have pictures. Everything is on social media. People are watching of me wearing the same outfit 5, 10, 20 times. And I think that we have gotten so accustomed to just purchasing on Amazon or Shein or Temu or whatever and buying the thing for that one event, and it accumulates. All of these fast, very low quality items just accumulate, and they have a large financial impact because you're always looking for the next thing. You're always on this verge of purchasing and replacing, especially when you buy these cheap clothes. They do not last, even in one wash. So you're always replacing items instead of just holding on to a quality piece that you love, that's timeless, that you can change the look, add a jacket, add a skirt, what have you, and make it look like a new outfit. And again, just thinking about the habits that we're forming here, when I'm using the items in my closet in a creative way, it is allowing my brain to be creative. And that creativity can be transferable to other aspects of my life, other ways that I can build additional streams of income, other ways that I can use products in my kitchen to create a new meal. It seems like these are just one little thing, but really, if you look at it and you pull back and you get a bird's eye view, these habits that we're forming here are impacting other areas of our life. So, one of the things that I really want us to stop is fast fashion. And it also has a dramatic impact on the environment because we're always consuming.
Yeah. And to go along with that, I recently read an article, Brittany, about toxic chemicals in a lot of the fast fashion purchases. It was interesting. I was in a Facebook group and one of the physicians in it posted, like, hey, just had a baby, saw some cute clothes on Shein, bought some clothes for my baby. And when she, for some reason, happened to mention it at the pediatrician said, hold on, don't put those clothes on your baby because those clothes have been found to actually have a high amount of toxic chemicals in
Wow.
them. And I was doing some research and this was posted in a physician group. So there were some studies that people were posting about some of the chemicals that can be found in some of these fast fashion purchases. And again, it's not just Shein or Temu, it's also Amazon. Oftentimes, Amazon, a lot of the products and cheap things that are sold on Amazon are also coming from those same fast fashion companies. Just to kind of emphasize your point even more, it's not only better for our wallet, but it's oftentimes better for the environment and our own health. Limit how much of this fast fashion we're purchasing. And of course, this is a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black because I just made some fast fashion purchases that were sort of mandated because I'm going on this bachelorette and all this stuff. But I can tell you right now, I'm going to make a conscientious effort to really limit that, especially now that I know that it can not only impact the environment, but impact my health. And so I think really limiting some of those low quality purchases can be helpful.
And I would love to see a culture shift because I think we have shifted towards a culture of fast fashion. And I was just talking to my aunt. She's like, oh, I'm stressed out because I have nothing to wear. I'm like, you have a ton to wear. You just got to be creative in how you are utilizing it. And I would really love for us to just say, it's okay if I saw you in this outfit 3 months ago at this person's wedding and I see you with the same outfit on the cruise. Like that is okay. That is very much acceptable. So I would love for us to start to shift our culture so that we can embrace greater utility of the items that we're producing and focusing on quality. So, Leisha, this is another one. You might disagree with me on this one, but this is bottled water. I am a woman who always carries my refillable water bottle. I bring them for my kids as well. And when I was looking up statistic, Americans spend about $16 billion annually on bottled water, despite water being free. Now, I'm also a woman from Flint, Michigan. So I understand the need for bottled water because with the Flint water crisis, we could not drink the water there. And as I even think about just lead toxicity in the water and not being able to consume the water for some communities and their reliance on bottled water, I also have been seeing a tremendous amount of research about plastic bottles and how these microplastics leak into the water that we're consuming. So I think this is kind of along the same lines as fast fashion. Is there a more economic friendly, environmentally friendly, and health friendly way for us to consume this resource that we definitely always need? Like, I'm dehydrated all the time. I need to drink more water as we speak.
Yeah, yeah. It's a balance between convenience and what's best for our health and our wallets. Because you mentioned that statistic $16 billion annually on water is a lot of money. You also mentioned the health concerns, right? Microplastics. It's one of the reasons why I've invested in glass Tupperware, right? The microplastics from the plastic Tupperware is just not good for your health. But at the same time, I'm also balancing convenience. I don't buy bottled water. I also have a refillable water bottle, but I also have been thinking lately, okay, Alicia, if you really want to be more hydrated, If I really want to drink more water, maybe it's more convenient for me to buy bottled water, have a few bottles always present in my car so that I can drink water when I'm traveling. I can drink water on my way to work, on my way from work, because oftentimes that's when I'm dehydrated. And just having that water there is helpful. And so it's a balance, right? It's a balance between what's best for my health, what's best for my wallet, what's convenient, what am I okay being a little inconvenienced by for the greater good. Generally speaking, I don't buy bottled water. But again, it's a culture shift. I find that when people come over to my place, they're like, "Can I have bottled water?" And I'm like, "You can have the tap. I got a little Brita filter you can use." Again, it's a culture shift, right? It's balancing, like I said, convenience with what may be best overall.
And going along those same lines of balance, this is one of the things that I've been troubled by in disagreements with my husband because we're two different temperatures and we operate a little bit differently, and also navigating the home, which is energy waste. When I tell my story of how I paid off my student loan debt, I would often share that I would unplug the TV, I would unplug the microwave, like anything that was consuming energy, electricity that we were not using was unplugged. I would plug everything in as I needed it. But that would annoy my husband. And now, as we're moving into this new home and it's cold in Boston, my husband's like, I don't like walking into a cold home, but I don't want to keep the temperature at 70 and heat up the entire home when I'm the only one here consuming one room. So I think that there is a significant amount of energy waste when we're leaving lights on, when we have inefficient appliances. And my utilities bill this month for my electricity was $553, which is like $200 more than what it typically is. So where do you think we can find this balance with energy utilization? And are you a proponent of upgrading your systems so that they can be more energy efficient and save you more over the long run?
Yeah, I am. In fact, I was inspired by this topic a few weeks ago. I was visiting a friend. He and his wife, we were talking about a bunch of things, but he was so excited to show me these gadgets. And as he's talking about these gadgets, his wife is sort of rolling her eyes, like, oh my gosh, here he goes again. And one of the gadgets he was excited to show me, he was like, Leisha, oh my goodness, I can control the thermostats in the rooms, the lights from my cell phone. And he's so excited about this. He was like, whenever I leave the house, if I leave a light on, I can turn it off on my phone. When I know I'm coming home, I can automatically have the air running so that it's at the temperature I desire by the time I get home. He even set timers. He's like, I know I need to wake up at, I don't know, 7 a.m. So I time the lights to automatically cut on at 7 a.m. He's like so proud of himself. And his wife is like completely annoyed. It's so funny because it's like, oh, okay, I can see how that's efficient, right? That kind of solves the problem that you were talking about is, okay, my husband wants to walk into the house with the room being a certain temperature, but I don't want to keep it at the temperature the entire time because I think that's wasteful. And so I think that this is where we can leverage technology to solve some of these energy problems. Because I will admit, I'm on the side of your husband, right? When I go over to my partner's house or my friends' houses and they're like, turn off the lights, I'm like, so you can save 5 cents on your electric bill next month? Like, come on, can you not make me eat in the dark? So my point here was that some people try to save money in every single way. It seems like you kind of fall into that camp. And it's just like, okay, let's keep the big picture. I think we make too much money to be worrying about unplugging the microwave every time we use it. So I think there is a balance there. I don't want to eat in the dark and I don't want to, as your husband says, walk home to a cold house. Can we, meet in the middle here? And I think this is where we can use technology in order to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all that I have on the list for you all today. So I just want to give you some tips, some of the things that we've already started to talk about of how to stop wasting money. One of the things that I will say is for you to spend in the way that allows you to focus on reality in your current operations. Oftentimes, when we're wasting money, like unused goods and services, gym memberships, things of that nature, is from a desire or aspiration. Oh, I desire to get more fit, so I'm going to buy this gym membership. Well, if you haven't walked in the gym in X amount of time or done a push up at home, like maybe this gym membership is not going to be the best thing for you. Or perhaps you need to get a trial run or just pay for the one-time fee to use it. And if you make a habit of going, then establish the membership so that you don't have these monthly recurring fees that we forget about. And because of inertia, we do not cancel. Also, when you're thinking about buying, buy what you need today, not to think about what you need in the future or what you might use. I'm very guilty of this. And ask yourself when you're making a purchase, if it wasn't this cheap or so low cost, would I actually buy the thing? thing? And if the answer is no, then you likely do not need that thing or you should invest in a higher quality product.
While you are enjoying your vacation, I am going to be trying to rectify my wallet for the money mishaps that just happened. Super Bowl was a few weeks ago, and I must admit, I made a few money mishaps. Okay. Number one was I decided to host with one of my friends. And when I'm hosting a party or a gathering, I really want people to have this enhanced experience. And I will say that I probably went a little overboard. It was like, oh, I want to create this punch that everyone would enjoy. So I'm like purchasing all of this stuff that was probably not needed. It's a Super Bowl party. So I'm thinking, okay, pizza and wings. And then I'm like, I'm a physician. You got to have some greens. You can't just feed people pizza and wings. I need to have a fresh salad with fresh veggies, and I'm going to chop up all the veggies, and we got to have a veggie tray. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, people probably need something sweet. So I'm like making cookies and all this stuff.
You made all of this stuff. You chopped up the vegetables. Leisha, girl, one thing. I know that you are way too busy to be chopping up some celery and carrot.
Girl, girl. I agree with you. I am too busy to be doing that, but I also am cheap, as you know. And it was just like, all right, I'm going to do this thing. Yeah, I underestimated how much time it would take me. So, of course, I'm stressed. I planned to look decent by the time people arrived. I was still in yoga pants. But you know what? We made it work. People had a good time, but I just probably overspent trying to host. And then my other money mishap is I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a sports doc, for goodness sake. And so Super Bowl is kind of a big deal for me, and I got a little ahead of myself and I started making bets. I'm not really a gambler, but when people come over and they're talking smack to me, I'm talking smack back. I can hold my own. And I made this stupid bet because I thought that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to win. Newsflash, they did not win. And I lost the bet. And the bet was basically whoever wins buys the other person a pair of shoes, which is kind of like an expensive bet.
Wait, did you all put a brand or an amount on the shoes?
Not really. I don't know how much the shoes, I mean, they're not cheap, right? This is not a cheap bet. This wasn't like, oh, you're going to buy me some like house slippers. It was like, all right, I want these shoes. If I had to guess, I think the shoes are like 150, $200. So kind of a
Mhm.
stupid bet. Like I'm feeling the ramifications of this bet right now. Also lamenting on the fact that I didn't get the shoes that I wanted because I lost. So just doing a little mental gymnastics here. But yeah, now I've got to buy some shoes that I'm never going to be able to wear myself that I'm going to have to give to that person. So yeah, that's my money confession. I need to stay away from the gambling and the parlays, even if it's just with my friends, because as I have witnessed, I will sometimes lose and then regret it.
But thankfully, you were able to share on this podcast and give me a lot of laughs. So I'm sorry that you have to buy someone shoes. I hope that they really enjoy the purchase and they wear those shoes until they have holes in the bottom and get their money's worth. Well, Leisha, now that we've talked about all the ways that we can stop wasting money, I want to know, how are you spending your money for fun?
So, you talked at the top of this podcast about you going on a cruise. I mentioned, I think a few episodes ago, that I too am going on a cruise. It's a bachelorette cruise with one of my friends who's getting married. And so, one of the things that I am doing fun with my money is figuring out which excursions I want to purchase and which upgrades on the cruise I want to purchase. I'm also thinking about, do I want to buy Wi Fi? Do I want to get the drink package? I'd like to think I'm reformed after doing dry January and I no longer consume as much alcohol as I used to. So, I'm like, am I going to really drink like $100 worth of alcohol? Right. And so, I'm really kind of thinking about which of these packages on the cruise I want to add, which excursions I want to have, what other things I want to purchase, and like preparing in advance for those things. So that's what I'm doing fun with money, is deciding how I'm going to upgrade my upcoming cruise.
Oh, I love that. You'll have to tell me if what you think was worthwhile, what you added on, and if it really enhanced the experience. Well, I am doing something a little bit different with money this time, and I am getting more help in the home. As I mentioned, 2025 started and I felt like I was on the treadmill. And so when I'm thinking about all the things that I have to do, all the things that I desire to do, and all the things that I want to do, I want to make sure that I'm using my time, my energy in a way that aligns with my values and also aligns with my core goals to create a life of happiness. And I realize that there are days in which I'm making lunches, there are days in which I'm washing clothes and doing some of of these tasks I don't necessarily need to do. So I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus on revenue generating activities. That's going to the hospital and seeing some patients or working on my side gig to produce more income. And I'm going to outsource a bit more. So I'm hiring more help in the home.
Nice, nice. Well, that has been our episode for today. Hopefully, you found some solace with us and to the different ways that you might to be wasting money. And hopefully, you got some tips on ways that you can avoid that. We cannot wait to come back to you again next week.
Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittany Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisa Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, you know. So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Botto and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.